Well, I can tell you that the owner's wife's not going to be too happy if she happens to see any of these memories of mine from this. She's always had this issue of people talking about her and that she didn't like it. Um, I'm sure that she'll have some comments and some rebuttals. But I thought it was funny, even when she was just hired, before she even became the owner's wife, before she ever even met the owner, um, other than I'm your new employee. Um, she was one day in the hallway outside the break room, and I was coming around the corner, and she's standing there and near the doorway of the break room, and I said, "What are you doing?" And she goes, "Shh." And I said, "Well, what's the matter now?" And I just kept walking. I go into my office, and she comes in. She goes, "They're talking about me in there." And I said, "Yeah, so?" She goes, "Well, I want you to go in there and make them stop." I said, "You want me to go in there and tell them to stop talking about you?" And she said, "Yeah." And I said, "No, I'm not doing that." I said, "It's not my job to babysit you. You know, if you're not getting along," I said, "You're their boss. They don't have to like you. You know, you do a job. You get paid to do a job. You do the job the best that you can. If they don't like it, then they don't like it. You know, there's people here that don't like me. But you can't walk in there and demand stop talking about me. You can just walk in there and sit down. I'm sure that they'll shut right up." She was so annoyed with me because I wouldn't go in and back her and tell them to stop talking about her that she just really didn't like people talking about her. She got mad when I was telling a story. I had told the story about when we were in the Edison store together because she was my head cashier in the Edison store for a short while under Food Town. And that's where I knew her from. And she was changing the toner in the fax machine, and she dropped the toner, and there was this cloud of ink went everywhere. That powdered ink that comes out of those toners, and she was covered in it. It was on her face, in her hair, on her clothing, up her nose, you know. And so once in a while, you know, you have little funny memories, and you would bring it up and say, "Hey, you remember that time?" And she would just glare at you like, you know, just never understood, never understood that. And with all this animosity that we had, she didn't like me. I didn't really know the owner other than working for him. I had been over his house once, and that was to pick him up when his car was being dropped off or something. And who do you think, when they decided that she was going to marry into this hierarchy, who do you think that they asked to be the best man? Yeah, me. Yeah. So take somebody that I really don't know and his wife to be that doesn't really like me, and they asked me to be the best man. I didn't understand it, so I was the best man of their wedding, but still didn't warrant goodbye. Take care. Thank you for making me all the money. You know, we had a week of sales one week. You know, we were good for making around $1 million a year for the longest time. Richard didn't like to show all the profits. That's his business. That's not mine. But I knew that we were making some good money. There were some years that he would say, "Well, you know, after everything was all said and done, you know, we only made, you know, a few hundred thousand." And I would just look at him. That didn't always sit right with me, but you do what you want with your own money. And I had a liquor store that constantly lost money. She was the vice president of the liquor store. She made sure she let me know that too. He made me vice president of the liquor store. I said, "Well, then go over and vice president. Leave me alone. Go over there and vice president. Go over there and tell them what you want done. Because you're the vice president of the liquor store. So you should be able to walk in there and say, 'Let me tell you how I want you to run my business, because I'm the vice president, vice principal, whatever.'" But, you know, she just was hopped up on these titles. of this importance. But couldn't say goodbye to me, her best man. Never understood it. She even said that to me one day after one of our battles. I think it might have been the day that I hit her with the door. When she said, "You're even my best. We consider you a friend. I consider you a friend. You were my best man." I said, "Well, if I wasn't your friend, and I was your best man, how many times have you invited me over to your house, or out, anywhere?" One time I was invited to a barbecue and I declined because I didn't feel like driving in the short traffic down at their summer house. I'm not the one that had 3 houses. I'm not the one that traded in a $90,000 Mercedes because it got flat tires and didn't want to drive it after a year because it had flat tires. Well, I think that says more about your driving ability than the structure of the car. 9 flat tires in 1 year, so I can't take this car anymore. I don't like it. I'm going to trade it in, get rid of it. Doesn't matter. The business, right? The business pays for everything, right? Like the time she came up and she says, "I just ordered you a new conference room table." I don't need a new conference room table. "I ordered you a new conference room table. It cost $20,000. What are you, crazy? $20,000 for a conference room table? Well, it turned out that that was her way of telling me that they ordered their dining room furniture for their new house that cost $20,000, and that they were calling it a conference room table so that they could write it off on the business taxes rather than have to, pay for anything this way. When you own a business, there's a lot of things that you can do. That was, so then, she would get mad and she'd say, "You talk about me all the time." And I said, "I don't talk about you all the time." And she goes, "Well, you're always trying to find out things and trying to find things out about the business." So, and I said to him, because, he was questioning, it was one of those meetings where I got called up because there was something that she didn't like. And I said, "Well, if you keep accusing me," I said, "how would I know that you spent $20,000 on a dining room set and that you were writing it off in the business as a new conference room table unless you told me?" I said, "Because there's only 2 people in this room or 3 people in this room that know about it, and your husband and wife. So if you knew that that's what it was and that's what you were doing, how did I find out about it if one of you didn't tell me about it?" And I said, and I said to the owner, I said, "You didn't tell me about it, did you, Rich?" And he always sits there with that blank look on his face as he's staring at you and says, "No." I said, "Well, if you didn't tell me about it, then where do you think I got that information from? And this person here is sitting here accusing me of digging into your affairs. That was offered freely, was it not?" That's how that meeting ended. And there were too many of those excuse me,